and welcome. My name is Kara Ripley, and I'm the Adult Services Librarian upstairs. I'm very excited to have a presenter here with us tonight, and Marggie has the distinguished honor of being our first presentation in this lovely space. So really excited. I'm really glad to have a local author with us to, open up the new building. It's very exciting. Marggie has a presentation, and then we will have time afterwards for book sales and questions and whatnot. So do you want to hold questions to the end, or?
I don't mind a few in between.
Okay.
I'm pretty casual, actually, and then it can direct it wherever we need to go. So,
all right. Yeah. And if you're watching online, you can email me, and I will ask Marggie the question. So that is all. Those are all the announcements I have for now, and I'll pass it over.
Thanks, Kara. I really can't thank you enough to have welcomed me. So I am very new to this community, and I dared to call the library to see if you guys would carry local authors, because where I came from, they weren't as excited about that. And not only did Kara say yes, but she immediately, yes, and here we are. So it's a real honor. And not to mention, I'm new here, and to be part of this beginning of this beautiful building, it's just gorgeous. So thank you. But my name is Marggie Moertl. My book was written with my former married name, so that's the difference there. But I am a nurse, a Reiki master, I'm an author, inner life coach, and an end-of-life doula. And so that's where my book came from, all of those things combined, and it's really been my spiritual journey that created it completely. And so first of all, if anybody wants to tell me a little bit about themselves, sometimes that kind of breaks the ice, or we don't have to do that if you don't want to. Any authors in the group? Any writers? All right. Tell me about your writing.
Oh, I published a book 14 years ago about my journey of being adopted and finding both my birth parents, one in Germany and one here in the US. And so I gave a talk some 14 years ago, and the book is here at the library. It's called Coffee and Cake.
And gratefully you told me about that at our yoga class. That's neat. Yeah. That's the thing, what I have found in Oregon is such an openness and welcoming. It's just really pervasive and very nice. So, well, like I said, come on in, get settled. We'll just wait 1 second. I've always been an avid reader from the day I was 6 years old, and somebody taught me how to put letters together to read.
I need to be on this side.
Okay.
I only have one good ear.
Oh, okay. That's Betsy. Hi.
Sorry.
Marggie Moertl.
I know, I'm
Yeah.
Betsy McCabe.
Yeah.
Hi.
So, yeah.
I'm sorry, my hearing is really bad today.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's.
Read your lips.
Hey. So we'll wait
Hi,
a second.
Andy.
My daughter. Anyway, working as a nurse was always something that I both loved, but also felt very constrained by all the rules and regulations. So that's just part of my actual professional background. It was, and I think most nurses feel the very same way, because nurses love to work one-on-one with people. We touch people. There's an intimacy that comes on from those quiet moments together, whether you're in a hospital, nursing home, home care, wherever you are. And so that is the part that really led me into thinking about writing a book. Years ago, I thought of writing something about my public health days and I kept picturing this over and over again, kind of like James Herriot. He was my idol when I was younger, and he still is. But during the 90s, I went through a huge spiritual awakening where all of a sudden one day I saw the world completely differently than I ever had before. I saw light fields. I could see through different dimensions. I understood the world completely and utterly differently, which you can imagine completely rocked my world. And it took a long time for that to get stabilized because there was a lot of changes that I had to make in order for that to happen. But because of that, I started studying vibrational medicine and spiritual healing, and I went out to New York and studied at Barbara Brennan's School of Healing, and then came back to Milwaukee and finished up and became a Reiki master and a master level holistic healer practitioner from my healing school. But after those things were done, I tried to go back into nursing and I absolutely couldn't do it. And so instead I started to try to talk to groups around medicine to try and see if I could share this wonderful thing. But you know, now we're pretty integrated. Now we're very open. This isn't something new and taboo. But I can tell you in the 90s, I used to get voicemails that I was doing the devil's work, that I must, you know, be tarred and feathered basically for what I was doing. And I really had, that was hard. It still happens every once in a while, but it makes no difference anymore. But because of that, then I went and talked to one group at a hospice. I had always been interested in hospice, and even in that, in the 90s, the hospices, that was new. It wasn't completely new. It started more in the late 70s and early 80s. So, but within medicine, it was something that wasn't completely understood and certainly wasn't completely integrated in itself, even though it was part of the medical model, you know, all of that. But I talked to this hospice group and I thought, oh my gosh, here's a part of nursing that I could really embrace. Multidisciplinary team, you're working side by side with chaplains and social workers and grief counselors and everybody. And I ended up working with that group and learned hospice nursing. It was a wonderful education. Every step of the way, there's good and bad, positive and negative. But I've worked in other hospices over the years in different locations. I've never come across a group that trained their people and had the true philosophy as hospice like that group did. I loved it. But the demands of being a hospice nurse are just overwhelming. You're carrying 15 patients, not one. You're at a visit getting beeped and, you know, all this stuff going on. You can never give your focus. And that's what I mean. I loved and hated it all at once. And so I would move in and out of hospice nursing, do other things. I went into medical oncology, which I really enjoyed. Hi, Mary. And yet even that, the same thing. You know, you're working in regulatory medicine where there's lots of rules and regulations. And when you've gone through this whole spiritual awakening, it really is hard to squelch yourself in. But because of that, then I was starting to develop in my mind, how could I bring the best of myself into death and dying, but not have to work with all of the rules and regulations and 15 people and someone else telling me what I need to be doing and all that. And so it took a while, you know. I had never heard of an end-of-life doula. I had never heard of any of those things. I don't even know if they were around. They might have been, but I wasn't aware of it. And then I couldn't tell you dates. At some point in there, I started to really conceptualize it. And I always do a lot of journaling, and I'll talk about meditative journaling in a minute. But I would start to like set my intention and start to picture it and visualize what I wanted to offer to dying people. And there came a point where I said, now I can work part-time and start to offer myself. So I opened my own business. This was in Door County, and I called myself an end-of-life consultant at that time. And in setting up that business is when I reached out to some people online and connected with Deanna Cochran in Texas and Suzanne O'Brien in New York, who were the first. There were about 5 groups that were really building the end-of-life doula platforms and training groups and stuff. And Suzanne and I really clicked, and so I became her first trainer and worked as a doula giver trainer for several years. And I was working to recruit people and educate them and mentor them, but also our shared passion, Suzanne's and mine, was to restore death and dying to a natural part of living, to get rid of this whole thing that it had become, which it still is to a lot of people. But, when I was younger, people died and we weren't expected to live forever. There was some decision making of, do you want to go this route or do you not? Or would it be smarter to just end your days peacefully with your family? Those conversations are fewer and fewer all the time, which really breaks my heart, because I'm not saying anyone shouldn't have aggressive therapies, but they should be told the outcomes of those things, what their life was going to look like, and to really get from somebody in authority to have someone endorse both ways and allow them the safety of making those decisions. But somewhere along the line, I started calling myself an end-of-life doula because I was working as a doula giver's trainer, and that's where my business came from. And I still do it. I work with Mary at Wingra Clinic as a triage nurse and really enjoy it. And yet I'm still seeing people on weekends and on my days off. Right now, most of my clients are virtual because they came from Door County when I moved here. But they're not all dying. They are, most of them are the family members who need some support and someone to talk to. I do a lot of inner life coaching, which is for the family members after they've lost someone, they need overwhelmed with grief, and to help them sort through, okay, who am I now? Because you do change. You completely and utterly change into a new person after you lose someone that's close to you. And so it's really joyous work. It's all I can say. But we're here to talk about my book, and the book came from all of these things together. When I was going through my spiritual opening and kind of refining out who I was and how I was going to bring all this awareness into my new life, I joined a spiritual transformation group in Osage County, and we met every month and did all sorts of wonderful meditation exercises and all that. And that's where I learned something called meditative journaling. Its goal was to help us to touch on the inner guidance that's within all of us and to bring it forward into our journals. And because of the power of that group, we were expected to share it with one another, name it, own it, which is scary. It's hard enough to write it out, but then to actually say this to the group. But it was monumental in my development. And I still journal every single morning. I can't say I combine meditation with it every single day, but many days. And I host classes on it and help people. I did put a flyer out there. I'm going to do a class, I think it's April 24th, a virtual class, if anybody's interested. And we can do a little bit more of that. But when I was meditating one day, this was after I was working as a doula trainer and doing my own work. In meditation, all of a sudden, there it was. The chapters were laid out, the title was there, and that was that. And I've learned one thing: when those things happen, you not only write them down, but you do it. You are getting direct instructions. And I did. And it took about 2 or 3 years to get that all done and written and rewritten and rewritten. My poor writing group heard the story 6 times over, you know. But it was wonderful to bring that forward, because it was really embodying everything I am inside, you know. Each of the chapters is set up to really dwell on one of the spiritual components that we have to face for all of us. There's nobody that won't. It's just intuitive in that end-of-life review, in resolving our lives, in seeking forgiveness, offering forgiveness. Everybody goes through it in whatever way they're going to go through it. And my idea is, why don't we do that now, when you're not in pain, when you're not on medication, when you can breathe and think, and more importantly, you can let it come slowly. You have a chance, as you touch on those things that you had long ago forgotten, those memories resurrect, and you think, oh my gosh, that terrible shame or blame or anger or whatever, and you have a chance to deal with it, and you have a chance to make resolution with people and stuff. And so I really believe that, I think our world is moving in that direction, I really do. But to do it with intention really makes a difference, you know, and stuff. So I've got lots more to say, but any questions so far? Okay. So meditative journaling is included in the book, and what that is you get your journal and you get set, but it's a, you know, when I journal in the morning, I'm thinking, I'm chattering about day at work, what I'm going to do, how I'm going to figure this, but then when I really sink down into something deeper, it changes. But when I meditate first, the intention is to not be in my head, absolutely not, and you meditate and you get quiet and you simply wait until the impulse comes to write. And then you put your pen to paper and you let it flow until it stops. You don't think about it, you don't edit it, it just simply you let it come. And that takes some practice. That inner critic is incredible. But it also is how you can learn to silence that inner critic, because I can sit down and journal. I am pretty open about who I am and how I feel, not always, but you know, you learn that from that, and it really is a beautiful practice, and it is a spiritual practice. It's also very healing to our hearts and our souls, and everything I know about energy medicine, that's the stuff that creates disease. So if you really want to be healthy, pay attention to that psycho-spiritual side of yourself and really focus on it. So each of the chapters deals with one of those elements, like compassion or meaningful life or facing your mortality and stuff. And then it has some, like a little meditation at the end and some journaling prompts at the end of each chapter. So let's see, what else? I don't know. Questions?
I would think that this would be really hard to do
Which?
online, like with your clients. You said you're doing this virtual.
Mm-hmm. Well, it actually is easier because when you're dealing with, it's not necessarily easier for the person that's dying, but my work tends to, and it's funny, when I used to be a doula giver trainer, I would tell people, you will attract the people that are right for you and what you have to offer. You don't have to think about it, you know. And the people that come to me are deeply spiritual usually. And so what I do is guide them to talk to one another, you know, and you have families from all around. You don't have to be in one place at one time. Mm-hmm. You can do this. It's not ideal, but it really works. It really, truly does. And
So it's a group that you're counseling at a time. Is it like a...
Whoever.
Okay.
Like on
So
Saturday, I had 2 family members, each who wanted to talk to me privately. One for different reasons, you know, to kind of closure and stuff about what they've been through. It can be either, or certainly with the person who's facing their death. But the dying person generally is going through it on their own. You know what I mean? They have that intuitive life review, that reckoning and things like that. So to be able to, and they get online sometimes, you know, but when I was in Door County, I had more people one-on-one, and I don't know, it just really, it works out. So, but I thought the same thing with my meditative journaling. Even pre-COVID, I thought I'm going to start doing this online because then I can reach people all over. And nobody even knew what Zoom was in those days. And so that was the best thing about COVID. It helped me because everybody gets Zoom now and they're not afraid of it. But it's a very nice way to be able to feel private. People don't have to feel exposed. You go into a private room in your house. When we're meditating, usually we turn off our cameras and just listen. You know, it really, truly can work. And in that way, you can just touch everybody wherever they are. And also for me, I can be available to people more because otherwise you're driving, having, a whole evening for one person, and like Saturday I had 2 visits, online, and yes, the whole morning, but it was in my own home and, and that, so it works out. Any doulas in the room? Anybody here? I know that Madison has lots of end-of-life doulas. I haven't met anybody yet, so.
Not yet.
You're working on it?
I'm interested in it.
Oh, okay, great, yeah.
I'd not heard of that before. Doulas, isn't that who delivers babies? Aren't there birth doulas?
Well, they don't deliver them, but they do the same,
Right,
they walk with the
coach
mother.
them. They coach the mother through the pregnancy.
And the doula walks with the mother as the spirit enters the world.
Mhm.
And I walk with the person as their spirit leaves the world. And I really do help assist that spirit to leave. I can do some energy things that really can help. It's just how it goes.
I was a hospice volunteer for a few years in Dubuque, Iowa, when I lived there, and we didn't have anything like that.
Yeah.
We had counselors and grief counselors, but.
Well, one of the nice things that happened was in 2018, the Hospice and Palliative Care Organization, which is the rule-making group for those organizations, endorsed end-of-life doulas.
Mhm.
And they created a platform within the organization which legitimized us, But we're smart enough to not want to be part of regulatory medicine, because I do not want to be told what I need to do. I do what the person needs, and that's that, and those kinds of things. And they set it up that way. There's the National End-of-Life Doula Alliance, which is a subchapter of the Hospice and Palliative Care Organization.
So if you have a patient or a family member on hospice, does hospice say, do you know about the end-of-life doula?
Hospices are a little less eager to use us than
Well, that's what I'm wondering, how do people find out about you?
yeah, word of mouth. I think that there are some very progressive hospices. I came from Door County, the doors were closed, done, But I know that I have friends that were in my doula groups that are working in nursing homes as an end-of-life doula and other places and hospices in other parts. So I'm excited here, and I do believe that we'll see that here.
There's more integrated medicine coming all the time.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
I have an integrated GP now, and my first visit with her, she had me, before I left, lay down on the table, and she called it energy work, but it was Reiki basically. And I'm like,
Yeah.
do they know you're doing this at UW? It's like, so it's coming. I mean,
Yeah.
there's more and more all the
Yeah.
time.
It is, and
Yeah.
it's getting, I don't know that everybody really understands it, but you don't have to understand it.
Right.
You just have to be open to it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have chosen a long time ago, I realized that my real healing gift is in the spoken and written word. And so whenever I'm talking to people like that, I just go into my Reiki stance and open myself to the energies and let the right words come or the right energy flow to the person. They don't know I'm doing that, but it really does. And you can just see when I consciously think, oh yeah, do that, you can just see that there's a change in the person. It always happens, and it's really beautiful. And it's not me, so.
It sounds like, in a way, feng shui is kind of more or less like that.
I'm sorry?
Feng shui?
Feng
Yeah,
shui.
absolutely. Yes, it's all part of energy. We really are energy. It's the energy getting more and more solid as we come. This is the lowest part of our humanity, right here, the flesh and bones. But we have energy way out here, and when you can learn to manipulate it and to use it and to open to it, it's really, and Feng Shui has to do with how you set up your environment. And I have a friend who's a Feng Shui person, and every time I talk about a problem, she says, well, put a mirror here, and you need it. I love it. I go, that's right, you're right, I should do that. I would never think about it.
But every place in a room is actually, the energy is different on one side and the other side. And by placing furniture or whatever, it either allows it to come through or it blocks it and makes it go a different direction.
Do you set up your house that way?
Not yet, I'd like to.
You're not all in for this, huh?
No, he doesn't. First, you have to deal with the tchotchkes.
I can tell too, where I'll say, oh, something's not right here. And then I remember once I just turned the table on an angle it's like, and it was just, then now we're right. I don't know if that's feng shui, but I think we have to have some space in our environment to allow the energy to flow. It's like in our body, you cramp it over here, that's great, but it's not going to feel comfortable, and over here is going to feel cold and empty, so you have to really work on it. That's neat. Well, I hope your home gets changed around.
Yeah, I don't mind him that one.
He'll say, no, don't you, changing it again,
Feng shui can be used with just about anything.
Yeah. You must have.
Basics is like moving furniture, whatever, but if you read it more, you'll find out it involves a lot.
Yeah, yeah. When I talk to my friend Leslie, there's layers that I never even thought of or know anything about, and that's where we each have our thing, and I'm grateful to have a friend that knows things like that. It's great.
And I thought I was just redecorating all the time.
Yeah.
Something's happening.
Yeah. Well, and color is so important, so incredibly important. From the socks we put on our feet to how we decorate our home, you have to be able to not keep it one way all the time. Like when I get dressed, I can never lay my clothes out the night before. I have to see what I feel like in the morning. And you can tell how I'm feeling. Some days are all mopey colors. But those are the days I try to put on something a little brighter than, to bring me around and things like that. Kara, did you have something?
Yeah, earlier in your presentation you talked about a spiritual awakening. And I just wondered if you talk more about that, what brought that on, and if you want. Yeah.
Good question. I think I finally was waking up to things weren't quite right in my home life and stuff. And as soon as I also have been always into very prayer and contemplative prayer, growing up in a Catholic church, that was meditation in those days, And so it all just sort of came, but there was a day where it happened, and I was blown away. But then in hindsight, I'd think, oh yeah, for about a month I was noticing this very odd animal would appear right before me. And what are you doing at the intersection of our neighborhood, or other things like that. And so some of that was already happening. But that's why when it happened, I understood that, okay. And gratefully, I had a therapist who turned me on to Barbara Brennan right away. She said, you've always been saying the words. I was waiting. She kind of knew this was going to happen. So I was waiting for this because you were using the language of energy and the language of spirit without ever recognizing it. So it's pretty neat. Yeah. So tell me about what you're doing with end-of-life doula. Are you looking into it?
I am. Just about 14 years now. My husband got cancer, and it was pretty in-depth. I thought I was going to end up being a nurse because of all the things we went through. But I was 48. I wasn't going to go back to school. We did not accept hospice because we were going to kick this esophageal cancer and bone cancer. We had no clue. It was our first rodeo. My dad, brain cancer, died a month after my husband. My mom, emphysema, COPD. My aunt, who just died in January, basically the same thing. Last June, my daughter-in-law's dad was dying, and she called and said, if you just, it looks like it's going to be close, if you want to come and, say goodbye or talk to him. By the time I got there that day, he was already out of it. And I wasn't going to pack a bag, and my husband and my daughter said, yeah, you pack a bag. I'm glad I did, because she wanted me to stay. She was comfortable with me there staying. We were with him till his last breath. And I helped the hospice nurse at that time when she came in. And all of that stuff I did, 13 years ago was coming back. And I was comfortable with it. I was comfortable with the whole situation. Raised Catholic, learned basically nothing. I am now delving into all of that. Also worked with a Reiki master for about 5 or 6 years and have my Reiki 1 certificate.
Wonderful.
Spent the last 10 days with my aunt in January and helped, and I mean, my heart was just like, and so I'm very comfortable with this, and I want to go forward. I thought it was going to be hospice, and then I found out about doulas.
Yeah.
And I don't want to come in and be the CNA that's has to leave within an hour, or the nurse that comes once a week, go with the 15 patients.
And has to take
wanna
care
be
of all the
there and
meds and all that.
Be
Yeah.
with them and
Yeah.
help and explain, and that's what I had the chance to do with my aunt and her family. And we all worked together. There was such a teamwork. It was
Oh, how
amazing.
beautiful.
Had butt heads with my uncle a little bit because that's his personality, and he's taken care of her for their 68 years of marriage. And so, you know, we work things out. I'm learning how to speak
Wonderful.
and let
What a
him
gift.
have his way and just kind of like
The back
incorporate
door.
what I knew
Yeah.
that would help her.
That's wonderful. Yeah, a lot of doula work is family mitigation because everybody's in their silos. They are all triggered. I mean, when you have adult kids and parents and other extended family, they're all, no, you need to do this. And so that's where I can just say, let's go take a walk and talk. And not to change their mind, just listen to their point of view, you know, and they come back and feel heard, you know. And more importantly, I think that's where I use my Reiki. They come back feeling, you know, like, okay, now I can come out of that triggered place and get going.
We all did. Her celebration of life is this Sunday.
Mm.
So we're really looking forward to that.
Well, it sounds like you have a real gift. And
So I need to learn how to journal, I think.
yeah, yeah.
And meditate better too.
Well, however you meditate until, you know, it's a progression, but that's wonderful. I find that when I was a trainer, the people that would come were all, 99% had lost someone, however long ago, you know, and then they realize, not at the time when you're grieving a loved one, it is the saddest thing in the whole world. But then later you realize the enormous gift of that, you know, and for me, I find I'm joyful because I can see light. And so when people are getting ready to pass and then they go, tears come to my eyes. It's just joyful. And so I always tell people that's not my family there, you know. And so it's very reassuring to them to know what a beautiful event it is. It is the most sacred when a child comes into the world and when the soul leaves again. It is what it's all about. It's really gorgeous. Neat. Well, we'll have to talk.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Would anybody like to try a little meditative journaling, or would you rather not? I wasn't sure what to expect. Okay. I don't know if I have enough stacks of paper, but you can share. You just need some paper to write on, and you guys maybe could pass those around.
We just need one piece of paper.
Yeah, you won't need much, you know.
Yeah, just grab a couple pieces of paper. I can grab some more. Do you need more pens?
I have just a few.
I'll grab one.
Yeah. They're, I haven't looked at these pens in a while. They're well worn, so if anybody needs one. Got one? You need one? Okay. I hope they work. I haven't dragged them out in a while. Anybody else? Okay. All right.
I know this sounds different, but the lady that our family knew really well, and she had gone in to have her vein stripped,
Mm-hmm.
and that night, I heard it being told to me that she was gone. Well, the next morning, they wanted to tell me that she had passed away, and I said, I already knew. And it was a strange, it's never happened since then.
You must have been close to her, right?
Huh?
I bet you were close to her.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that that happens to many of us. We are taught to totally not trust those intuitive moments. We think that we're crazy, that people will think we're crazy, you know, or whatever. But if you really pay attention, they happen more often than you think. So, okay. I like to start with some music, and then we'll do a guided meditation. But then when the meditation is done, to just close your eyes and don't hurry. When something, and if you never feel an impulse to write, then don't write, you know, but you will find all of a sudden you feel like picking up your pen, and as much free form as you can go, even if it's gibberish to you, it's an exercise in allowing that inner voice to come forward. So, okay? Let's see.
Before we get started, I do have a pad here if somebody wants.
Here's the exercise here too.
Thank you. I think is there an extra one back there?
There's another one too.
Yeah, there's a couple floating around.
Okay. Anybody else need a hard?
Somebody else
hardback?
want one?
Don't you need one?
No, no,
Need one?
my writing is the best.
Do you want to write on the hard?
Sure. Thank
Hard
you.
one?
Okay. All right. Here goes. Let's see if it'll work. That's not picking up. Hang on a second. Next step is the Bluetooth.
That sounds like Native American flute now.
See, with my move, I haven't used all these things in a while. There.
Pairing with Bluetooth.
Yes,
Exactly.
exactly.
Say that, right?
There we go. And tell me if it's too loud or whatever. But and don't hesitate to close your eyes or not, whatever. Just kind of take a chance to let yourself come into your body. Just what you should never do is rush meditation. Just slowly breathe in and feel your energy coming down out of your head. And all of a sudden, little by little, it comes down into your body. So, and just take some deep breaths. Put your feet on the floor. So just imagine yourself out for a walk. It rained today, and you're out now that the sun came back out, and pretend it's earlier in the day and the sun has returned, and you're walking through some damp grasses. And really smell the fresh air, that beautiful cleansing that rain causes. As you walk, you come across a puddle. And bend down and look into that puddle. It's fresh enough that the water isn't muddy yet. But you can smell the earth and the water. And the sun behind you lets you look into it as though it's a mirror. And just look at yourself. But look at yourself through the eyes of, who am I? Can you see your soul? Can you see your heart? Can you see the inner part of yourself? Or are you just seeing your face that you're used to looking at? as you're looking at yourself, just really ask yourself, who am I? And then let the answer come to you as you're looking. And if that's what the impulse to write about is, fine. Or just think about who that person is. We have an outer self that's our personality and our ego and all the things of the world, and it's a wonderful thing. But there's a whole spirit inside. The piece of you that came to this earth to fulfill a purpose. That we have to pause and connect with in order to hear its voice and to see the beauty of who we are. So who are you?
This final meditation
Why don't we wait just a couple more minutes and then we'll go ahead. Does anybody want to share a little bit about how that experience was, or if anything new evolved out of you onto the paper?
I just wondered, now the music that you played, when I first started to hear it, made me think it was like Native American music.
So Native America? It probably could be, yeah. That's one thing on my iTunes. I have all sorts of different things like that, depending upon like drumming, flute, all those beautiful things, as well as, again, when you're talking your energy system, all of those sounds affect a different part of your being, and so it's really, they're powerful, really powerful. Well, I've got notebooks upon notebooks. That's when I moved, I have this huge bin. I thought, why am I dragging this? But I can't get rid of it.
If you're ever going to read it.
I know. It's like, every once in a while I'll go back and look for one thing, but usually when it's done, it's done. But I don't know, that's my soul, it's got to come with me. Forget the dishes and all the rest of it. So, yeah. Well, if it's okay, I wanted to read a little bit from my book. This time I decided to read from the last thing. It's the last chapter is on life closure and talking about, and again, each of the chapters has an example from people I worked with or from my hospice nursing, just different situations and that kind of demonstrate it. But this was the reflection at the end of the chapter. As I've spent endless hours with people who are dying, I've witnessed so very much. Each person and their intimate circle are completely unique, and the hours spent approaching death are as well. Most share stories, memories. Many make sure that their friends and distant family are phoned so that their last words can be said. Each of these makes my heart fill with love as the preciousness of life is cherished before the physical life completes its purpose on earth. Families are aware that dying people continue to hear words and sounds as they slip into seeming unresponsiveness. Often caregivers whisper to the dying loved one that it's all right to go, and then later grow impatient that with their words shared in their deepest love, it didn't seem to be heard. They wonder why their loving words didn't help the person pass. I love observing and interacting through these private moments, trying to share that there's so much more to our passing than what is apparent to us. Deep inner work occurs. The physical body shuts down in a systematic way, but in its own time. Giving permission to leave is beautiful. It's a wonderful gift to the person who's dying. But it's been my experience that the final thing each of us craves and needs is the gift that will provide the peaceful passage from this life. It is to have our lives affirmed as having been valuable. We need to know that our life held meaning, and we need to know that our lives will live on in the memory of those we love. I wonder if our death rituals should change. Why do we wait to celebrate the lives of those we love until after they die? Why do we wait to create beautiful videos with pictures and memories, hearing again the voice of our loved one from a screen as mourners share stories? Why do we wait until the post-death celebration of life to share picture boards and mementos? Why not do this along with the person as they do all their deep inner work of dying? The deep inner work that has been discussed in this book. Why not assist them to see how valuable their life has been, feel how deeply they're loved, and know that their life held powerful meaning to people that they're leaving behind? Finally, why not create the legacies and memories with the dying person to show them their life will concretely live on in joyous memories of each loved one's? And then there's a meditation after that. For anybody that's been around, a deathbed of a loved one, it's natural for families to share stories and that. But that's one of the greatest gifts I have, is to be able to lead some of that into a more completely how it is right for that family, but to really organize it a little bit and help them to really make it into like a living wake. And the person might not be able to verbalize, but they can hear. They certainly can feel the energy of the love and stuff. There's usually lots of funny stories being shared, and remember this and remember that, and that is just glorious, But then also those tender things, because we tend to tell the funny things because we don't really want to speak from here. And so that's where I'm able to help them in that way. So anyway, Betsy?
I loved your idea of having the wake before.
Yeah.
I feel like when I've gone to, these are two of my closest friends, and I went to their mother's funerals, and I feel like I knew their mothers then.
Yeah.
Because their children took the time to create the memories, right? And then you have these regrets that you didn't know that person as they lived too. And so what a wonderful idea to do more of that before
when the personality self is removed, we see the person differently. I'm sure we all have gone through that. When someone passes, you think, oh my gosh, I never really understood my mom or my dad or saw that aspect of them. And it's trapped because I'm seeing you as you are, and our old business between us and that kind of stuff. And so if you can help to get past some of that in the living, it's really a gift. But I have found that final piece is when people know that their life held meaning. They finally can breathe that peaceful breath. Doesn't mean they pass right that second, but they can go in peace then. And for each of us, that meaning is our own description. So we all have our own lives. We've set up the way we wanted them and lived them the way we wanted, some with regrets, some not, but we still have things that we consider meaningful, and that's what's important to hear.
Yeah, I think we've both seen a lot of that because we're both CNA that for a good part of 30 years.
Yeah.
And I've seen a lot of that with families as well as some of our residents.
Yeah. My oldest sister died just about a year ago, and that was a complicated relationship, believe me. She had mental illness her whole life, and it was not an easy road between the entire family because of it. But she ended up dying in a senior facility in Milwaukee for the mentally ill. And every time I would visit, I would feel so guilty because it really wasn't one of the nicest places in the whole world, and all that. Until her final days, and I spent time there, and she died with her friend, one of the aides, playing his electric guitar, the aide giving her a manicure while I was there, the whole group surrounding her, all these people that were really, half of them did not converse in this world, but that was her family, and I finally understood this is her home, and she has been happy here, and that's why she did the best there that she ever did in all of her illness. So it was really gorgeous. I have that video, and it just will never stop. When I walked up there in fact, my other sister and I had been visiting and at the bedside, and we finally went downstairs, and we said, why don't you guys go up? And we didn't realize that they were all afraid to intrude on us. And then the whole gang went up. I mean, everybody, and surrounded her. And I thought, boy, this is something. That's all I can say. It was really beautiful, really cherished. So.
Some of the things, my dad passed away from cancer, two different bouts. But when Mom was getting bad, she told the girls, like the day before, she said, I'm ready to go see Dad now.
Yeah.
And 1 o'clock the next day, she passed.
Yeah, that's neat. I've had people say I will be gone by such and such a date, and they are. You can better know that it's going to happen. They will, definitely. We do know. People know. And that's why when we're so afraid to say to people, oh my gosh, like on TV, there's a show I was watching and it was really beautiful. And this young wife trying to get the next thing and the next thing for her young husband. And she said, what? No one tells me what's happening, what's going on. And he said, I know. But it didn't, he said it, and it was in there for a reason. But it didn't stop her in her tracks, it should have, because he was waiting for that chance to say, I'm dying, let me be, just let it happen. So, yeah.
Well, you played the meditation music, and you posed the question, who am I? And so I was trying to get into that, and I found that the meditation music caused me to just realize and deal, at least in a planning way, of what I would like a step or two of what I need to resolve in my life. And so it occurred to me that is such an important part of life and thank you for the meditation music. Are those beta waves or whatever they're called, the meditative?
Kelly could probably tell you better than me.
I'm not sure.
That's my yoga teacher.
I'm not sure what exactly it's called, but the state of mind when one's mind is in meditation. And I found it was easier to just be with what I need to resolve, what I need to have much better understanding about in order to move forward in my life. So
wonderful.
Yeah.
And music is really powerful, and that's why to set the environment when you're going to do this kind of work is really important. A lot of times I'll take my journal and I'll be at a coffee shop and writing, that's fine. But when I'm home, I light it. It's like I get all set and then I light a candle intentionally. Like, okay, now we're beginning, and 10 minutes, 2 hours, whatever, but it's really very powerful. So thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you for explaining that. What is the intention? So you're giving an intention before you meditate?
Well, I'm setting my intention to create that this is what I'm going to do. It's like calling myself inside and calling away from, instead of turning on the morning news, and all that kind of stuff. It's like calling myself inside of my heart. And some days are easier than others to be quiet, but it is saying that that's what I'm going to do now, And the more you can set your intention on the big scheme of what you want in the world, but daily, hour by hour, okay, this is what I want to happen. It's like you get to, when we talk about being the author of your life, that's how you do it. But when you're doing it from a spiritual reality, it's not like, oh, I want this. No, it's like, what am I being called to do? And I want that to happen and help me to get out of the way so that it can. That's the big ticket.
Thank you.
I thought we were kind of winding down, but it sounds like we might not be. So I don't want to rush that process if we have other questions or comments for Marggie. So I'll just I'll back away.
Okay. Yes, I know. Feel free to leave whenever you need to. This is a very casual thing, so.
Marggie, I have a question. It's been really fascinating to hear your work, and I've been I've been thinking a lot about death and dying for quite a few years now, just a variety of different transitions, that happen throughout life, moving from one stage of life to another, or having people pass and so forth. And I think one of the things that I'm really starting to kind of, and I'm wondering if you've ever worked in this regard, my mother is losing her memory, and so she's moving into dementia. Right now, she's at a stage where she's, I can converse with her, but she doesn't remember a lot. She doesn't, she's just at that kind of point. And I know that she will get progressively worse. And so I'm just curious if in your field you ever work with families, because I feel like I've already lost my mother, right? The mother that I've known, and I feel that grief come up quite frequently. And yet she's there, and I still have these opportunities to still engage with her and talk about memory, like all that stuff that you're talking about, like celebrating what's actually here right now.
But it's hard when it doesn't come back. You remember she's not necessarily.
Yeah, and that's true. There's times that she doesn't, and then there's other times that there's something that I don't know if she actually consciously remembers it, but there's something about her demeanor and energy that changes in these conversations.
That's wonderful.
And
such a gift for her and for you.
Yeah, I find it to be a really important thing. I mean, unfortunately, we live many, many, many miles away, and I don't get to spend that time with her. But I've just been thinking a lot about how to engage in ways that with other family members too, who might feel like they're giving up or getting frustrated or whatnot. Is how can we just come together and just celebrate Mom as she is.
That's beautiful.
And not back away from that.
I have those two people that reached out to me this weekend, each from the same family. I've been working with their family because their brother has been dying, and so it was wonderful. Some people were there, some were all over the country and stuff, and we would get together, and a lot of it was just happy connecting, but then also to help guide some of these conversations and things like that. It's really nice. And I might talk about doing it for others, but when it's my family, I need someone to help me because I got my own issues and my own stuff, and all that goes on. So, yeah. One of my best friends is, I met her because she asked me to walk with her husband through dementia. And for a year, I would visit him every week, and he would say the same thing 30 times and stuff, but he was still in that panic. He knew he was doing that, and he couldn't stop. And so we just would look at pictures, and he would talk about his growing up years, and she thought it was very helpful for him, and so did I, And then when he passed, I was their doula at the hospital. They had a rough road with that particular ICU and stuff. But now we're such good friends because you share such a depth of heart and soul and honesty between you. There's a connection that just stays. It's beautiful. Just coming for a visit in a couple of weeks. Well, seems like we're there. I do have my cards there, and I do have some things about the meditative journaling class if anybody's interested, as well as my book. But take my card if you ever want to just drop me an email, if you want to talk one-on-one or just whatever. I'd love to hear from you. So thank you. Can't thank you all enough for coming.
Yes, thank you for coming, and thank you. That was beautiful. That was really nice.
Thanks.
So books are for sale over there, and thank you.
Oh, it is so good.
you.